Bullies pick on a newcomer big mistake. He's an unstoppable fighter. What would you do if you were humiliated every day but had a secret that could turn the tables? And what if those who underestimated you were about to learn the most painful lesson of their lives? This is the story of Jake, a boy who moves to a new town and quickly becomes the target of the school's bullies. What they don't know is that they're messing with the wrong person. What starts as just another case of bullying soon turns into a shocking reality check that no one saw coming. Get ready for a story of revenge, redemption, and a plot twist that will leave you breathless. The small town of Brookside was never a busy place. The same people followed the same routines day after day. Everyone knew each other, and any newcomer quickly became the talk of the town. So when a new kid showed up at school, rumors spread instantly. He was tall but not overly muscular. He wore simple dark clothes and had a calm, almost indifferent gaze. His name, Jake. Jake didn't try to make friends. He chose a quiet seat at the back of the class, spoke only when necessary, and avoided any kind of conflict. But ironically, that attracted the wrong kind of attention. At Brookside High, there was a group that acted like they owned the place, led by Troy, an arrogant athlete and the coach's son. The bullies had a habit of testing every new kid. They saw themselves as kings of the school, and no one dared to challenge them. And Jake? To them, he was just another easy target. One day in the cafeteria, Jake was sitting alone at his table when Troy and his friends approached. "Hey, new guy," Troy said, slamming his hand on the table. "Didn't see you at practice. You planning to join a team? Or are you just another loser?" Jake slowly looked up, analyzing Troy and the other guys standing around him. He didn't answer right away, he just went back to eating calmly. The bullies exchanged glances, laughing. "Look at this. He's mute," one of Troy's friends mocked. "Or maybe he's just a coward," another one added. The entire cafeteria watched, waiting to see how the new kid would react. But Jake didn't seem bothered at all. He simply picked up his tray and, without saying a word, got up and left the cafeteria. That irritated the bullies. They wanted a reaction. They wanted to see fear. But they got nothing. Troy clenched his fists, looking at his friends. "This guy thinks he can ignore us. That's not going to fly." And just like that, Jake's fate was sealed. He would become the new target of Brookside High's bullies. What Troy and his friends didn't know was that they were about to make the biggest mistake of their lives. It didn't take long for Troy and his friends to start testing Jake. They started small, accidentally bumping into him in the hallways, knocking his books off his desk, making sarcastic comments when he walked by. But Jake never reacted. That only made them more determined. One afternoon, as Jake was leaving the school building, he found his path blocked. Troy and his group stood in front of him, smirking. "Hey, new guy," Troy said, crossing his arms. "You're a hard guy to get a reaction from. But don't worry, we'll change that." Jake stared at him, silent. His expression was unreadable. "Not much of a talker, huh?" one of Troy's friends sneered. "That's okay. We don't need words to have fun." Before Jake could step around them, another one of the bullies, a large guy named Mason, shoved him. It wasn't enough to knock him down, just enough to test him. Jake staggered slightly but quickly regained his balance. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't even look angry. That annoyed Troy. "What's wrong?" Troy taunted. "You scared? Or do you think you're too good to fight back?" Jake's eyes flickered with something dangerous, but it disappeared as quickly as it had come. Troy chuckled. "That's what I thought. Just another coward." Satisfied that they had put Jake in his place, the group laughed and walked away. But they had no idea. Jake hadn't reacted, not because he was scared, but because he knew exactly what he was capable of. He had spent years training, honing his skills. He could have ended that confrontation in seconds. But not yet. They weren't worth it. Not yet. The bullying didn't stop. In fact, it escalated. Troy and his friends became more aggressive, more desperate to break Jake's silence. They tripped him in the hallways, stole his notebooks, even spread rumors about him. And still no reaction. Until one evening after school. Jake was walking home alone when he heard footsteps behind him. He knew who it was before he even turned around. Troy, Mason, and two of their lackeys stood behind him, grinning. "Hey, new guy," Troy called out. "Where you headed? Thought we'd walk you home." Jake sighed quietly. He had hoped to avoid this. "I'm not interested," he said, his voice calm but firm. Mason scoffed. "Hear that? He's not interested. Too bad. We don't care." The bullies moved in closer, circling him. Jake's eyes darted to the street, empty. No teachers. No witnesses. Troy smirked. "You've been real quiet, Jake. Makes us wonder. What are you hiding?" Mason lunged first, grabbing Jake's shoulder. And that's when it happened. A blur of movement, too fast for them to register. In one smooth motion, Jake twisted Mason's wrist, spun him around, and shoved him forward. Mason lost his balance and crashed to the ground. Troy's eyes widened. "What the?" Jake turned to face them, his expression still eerily calm. "I'm done playing your game," he said. For the first time, Troy felt it, unease. Jake wasn't scared of them. He never was. And something told him this was just the beginning.